The message arrived at 3:47 hours, Universal Standard Time. Every ship in the human defense fleet received it at the exact same moment. The transmission cut through all frequencies, overriding communication systems with the kind of technological superiority that should have terrified anyone watching. Admiral Wei stood on the bridge of the HDS Defiance, her flagship, and watched the holographic projection form in front of her. The alien that appeared was tall, elegant, and absolutely convinced of its own importance. Its skin was pale blue, its eyes large and golden, and its voice carried the weight of 10,000 years of galactic dominance. "Primitive species of the third planet," the alien began, its words automatically translated by the ship systems. "We are the Dominion, rulers of 600 star systems and masters of this galaxy for longer than your species has existed. Your expansion into the Outer Rim territories has been noted. Your mining operations in the asteroid belt are in direct violation of Dominion territory. You have 30 of your planetary rotations to withdraw all assets and personnel from these regions. Failure to comply will result in the complete annihilation of your species. This is your only warning." The transmission ended. The bridge fell silent. Every officer on duty turned to look at Admiral, waiting for her reaction. She was 63 years old, had served in the fleet for 4 decades, and had seen humanity fight its way through 2 civil wars, a resource crisis that nearly ended civilization, and first contact with 3 other species. She had scars on her face and more in her heart. She started laughing. It began as a small chuckle, but within seconds it grew into a full, deep laugh that echoed across the bridge. Her officers exchanged confused glances, unsure if their admiral had finally cracked under pressure. But then Commander Jackson, her second-in-command, understood. He started laughing too. Then the communications officer. Then the weapons specialist. Within a minute, the entire bridge crew of the Defiance was laughing so hard that some had tears in their eyes. "Sir," a young ensign finally asked, still not understanding, "what's so funny?" Admiral wiped her eyes and took a deep breath. "Son, do you know what they just told us? They gave us 30 days to leave. 30 days. She shook her head, still smiling. "Every other species that tried to push humanity around gave us ultimatums measured in hours. They gave us 6 hours before they attacked our colony on Mars. They gave us 12 hours before they tried to blockade Earth. Even the United Nations gave the original colonists only 24 hours to surrender during the Mars Rebellion." She leaned back in her chair. 30 days is more time than humanity has ever needed to do anything important. These have no idea what they just gave us." She turned to her communications officer. "Send a reply. Let them hear us laughing. Then tell them we respectfully decline their generous offer, and add that we'll be seeing them soon." The message was sent. Across the fleet, similar scenes played out on every ship. Captains shared the admiral's amusement. Soldiers who had been training for years finally had something to train for. Engineers who had been designing weapons in secret finally had a reason to test them. And politicians back on Earth who had been arguing about military budgets suddenly found themselves united in purpose. They monitored the human response with confusion. Their intelligence officers had studied humanity briefly before issuing the warning. They had noted that humans were a young species, barely 300 years into space travel. Their technology was primitive compared to Dominion standards. Their fleet was small. Their bodies were fragile. Every calculation the Dominion made suggested that humans would surrender immediately, terrified by the power displayed in the warning transmission. Instead, the humans were laughing. High Prefect, commander of the Dominion forces assigned to handle the human situation, called an emergency meeting with his advisors. "Explain this behavior," he demanded. "Why do they not fear us?" "Perhaps they are insane," one advisor suggested. "Their species is known for irrational behavior." "Or perhaps they are simply too stupid to understand the threat," another offered. But the senior advisor, an ancient who had witnessed many conquests, remained silent. He had seen something in the human broadcast that troubled him. The admiral who had laughed was not laughing from madness or ignorance. She was laughing the way a predator laughs when it finally spots prey that has wandered too close. "We should increase our forces," the senior advisor said quietly. "Triple them at minimum." High Prefect waved away the suggestion. "Nonsense. Our standard conquest fleet has never failed. We will proceed as planned." The 30 days passed quickly. The Dominion expected to find human ships retreating from the contested territories. Instead, they found something else entirely. Admiral had used every minute of those 30 days. Human factories across a dozen worlds had shifted to war production. Ships that had been in dry dock for repairs were pushed back into service. Weapons that had been deemed too dangerous for peacetime were suddenly approved. Scientists who had been working on theoretical projects found their research fast-tracked. And most importantly, the soldiers of the human defense fleet had time to prepare, to strategize, and to remember why they fought. Humans, the Dominion would soon learn, were not like other species. When the conquest fleet arrived at the edge of the belt, they expected to meet a small, scattered human defense. What they found was the entire human defense fleet waiting for them. 200 warships, arranged in a formation that made no tactical sense to strategists. The human ships were smaller, less elegant, and clearly inferior in every measurable way. "They cannot be serious," High Prefect said, amused. "Our shields alone will withstand anything they can throw at us." He ordered the fleet to advance. The first surprise came when human ships began moving in patterns that they had never seen before. Instead of forming defensive lines or attempting to flee, the human vessels scattered in all directions, then regrouped in new formations, then scattered again. It was chaos. It was madness. And it was exactly what Admiral had planned. "They're trying to track our movements," she said, watching the fleet struggle to respond. "Their computers are trying to predict where we'll be next. Let's give them something to calculate." The human fleet had no central command structure during battle. Each captain operated independently, making decisions in real time based on what they saw. This was considered primitive by galactic standards. Most advanced species relied on coordinated AI systems that controlled entire fleets like single organisms. But humans had learned something important during their centuries of war against each other. Predictability was death. The AI could not predict ships that had no predetermined plan. The calculations kept failing. The targeting systems kept missing. And while the Dominion fleet was struggling to adapt, the humans attacked. Human weapons were not elegant. They did not use clean energy beams or precise gravitational manipulators. Human weapons were ugly, brutal, and designed to do maximum damage in minimum time. The first volley from the human fleet was a wave of kinetic projectiles, simple chunks of metal accelerated to impossible speeds. The shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, barely slowed them down. "Impossible," High Prefect whispered as he watched 3 of his ships tear apart under the barrage. But the kinetic weapons were just the beginning. The humans had spent 30 days preparing, and they had brought every weapon they had ever invented. Missiles carrying nuclear warheads, drones packed with explosives that flew directly into enemy engines, electronic warfare systems that scrambled communications, and soldiers, human soldiers in armored suits who launched themselves from their ships to physically board enemy vessels. They had never experienced boarding actions. Their wars were fought at a distance, ship against ship, fleet against fleet. The idea of individual soldiers fighting hand-to-hand inside a warship was barbaric, unthinkable. But the humans did not care what was thinkable. They cared about winning. Commander Jackson led the boarding party that took the flagship. His team of 50 soldiers fought their way through corridors filled with enemy troops. They were taller, stronger, and better equipped. But the humans were desperate, adaptable, and absolutely unwilling to die. High Prefect's last transmission to the Dominion was interrupted when Commander Jackson kicked down his command center door. "Hello," Jackson said, raising his rifle. "We got your message. Here's our response." The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, the conquest fleet had been reduced to scattered debris and captured ships. The human fleet had lost 67 vessels. Every survivor would be remembered. Every loss would be mourned. But the victory was absolute. Admiral broadcast a message on the same frequency the Dominion had used for their warning. "This is Admiral Way of the Human Defense Fleet. Your conquest fleet has been destroyed. Your High Prefect is our prisoner. We have a message for the Dominion." She paused, letting the silence stretch. "You ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years because no one challenged you. That time is over. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity does not retreat. And humanity does not forget when someone threatens our home." She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a tone that carried more menace than any threat. "Come at us again, please. We could use the practice." The transmission ended. Across the Dominion, councils met in emergency session. Military leaders demanded immediate retaliation. Politicians argued for negotiation. But the senior advisor who had warned High Prefect sat in silence, staring at the reports from the battle. He understood now why the humans had laughed. They had been waiting for this. Every war they had ever fought against each other had been preparation. Every conflict, every crisis, every near-extinction event had made them stronger, more adaptable, more dangerous. They had given them 30 days because they thought it was generous. They did not realize they were giving a sleeping predator time to wake up. The advisor drafted his resignation that night. He had lived long enough to see many civilizations rise and fall. He knew the signs of a species about to change the galaxy. The humans were not going to be content with defending their small corner of space. They had tasted victory against a superior force, and that taste would drive them forward. Within 10 years, the Dominion would sign a peace treaty that recognized human territorial claims. Within 50 years, humans would have seats on the Galactic Council. Within a century, they would be the most influential species in known space. But all of that was in the future. In the present, Admiral sat in her quarters aboard the Defiance, writing letters to the families of the soldiers who had died. Each letter was personal. Each death was acknowledged. And when she finished, she allowed herself one more moment of dark humor. 30 days, she murmured to herself. They gave us 30 days. She shook her head and smiled. It had only taken them 4 hours.